January 2020 game, Brady's last game as the Patriots, his last throw ends up in your hands with a pick six.
I was back in New England on the other side, and I'm like, Brady does not lose home playoff games. And then Tom has the ball, with a minute left, down a score. We've seen this movie a million times out of a million. Instead of me being deep or instead of me being a man-to-man, they put me in the middle of Spy Tom. I just read Tom's eyes, and I was right there, man, right on the spot. And if you ever watch the replay, Mike Vrabel is livid. He's yelling, "Get down," because if we get down, we can take a knee and the game is over. The whole sideline celebrated, but Mike Vrabel's situational football was not happy with me. I felt like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. I felt like I blew up the Death Star. And I said, Braves, 100 times out of 100 on pick six and Brady if I can.
Welcome in to NFL Spotlight. It is the Tuesday, September 30 edition of the show. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, and week 4 of the NFL season is officially in the books. We are on to week 5, and since it is a Tuesday, we have a special spotlight guest like we do each and every Tuesday on the show. And today we will be joined by two-time Super Bowl champion, former New England Patriot, Tennessee Titan, New York Giant, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and San Francisco 49er in Logan Ryan, one of the most versatile defensive backs in the NFL during his time. Like I said, won a couple of Super Bowls, played with some of the great teams in the NFL when he was with New England, when he was with Tennessee. His final year in San Francisco, they made it to the Super Bowl, and somebody who had a fascinating career as one of the great defensive players in the league during his time. And he opened up about everything. I mean, all the questions I asked about his career, about stuff that happened, business, negotiations, free agency, taking shots at people. He really opened up, and I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And of course, he's now in the media world, in the broadcasting world. He does games for CBS. He has a podcast here called NFL IQ as well. He's just very, very articulate and really opened up, like I said, about everything. So here it is, my full discussion over 55 minutes, close to an hour with Logan Ryan. Joining us today here on NFL Spotlight, he played 11 seasons in the NFL as a two-time Super Bowl champion, one of the most versatile defenders of his era, and is now a game broadcaster for CBS and also the co-host of NFL IQ. It is Logan Ryan. Logan, what's going on, my man? How are you?
What's up, man? I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. We spoke a little bit off air. I don't want to spoil it, but I think it's going to be a really good convo because we're talking about the business side of football, which I obviously learned a lot about in my decade in the league.
Yeah, I mean, you had a fascinating career, an amazing playing career, fascinating business career as well when it comes to your contracts in the NFL. And we'll talk about all of it here on the show. But this is the NFL Spotlight Show. We love spotlighting people who deserve more recognition. What we like doing on the show is kind of going through people's career paths, their journeys. How did they get to where they are today? Now you're in the media world, our world here. But we'll start from the very beginning with you. You were born in New Jersey. You played both quarterback and cornerback in high school. Simple question to start. At the time, was your plan growing up to be on the offensive side, defensive side? Like, what was your plan growing up when it came to football?
Yeah, quite simply, I love playing quarterback. It taught me everything I know about the game. I knew that my future uh, in college, high Division I college, was going to be on the defensive side. I was 6 foot, 170-pound athlete, an undersized quarterback, I guess, from NFL standards back then, but a perfectly sized cornerback. And I didn't come off the field. I played both sides of the ball. But back then, I knew that quarterback was my future. Nowadays, with the quarterbacks getting shorter and a little more mobile, I might have been ahead of my time. But I really modeled my quarterback game against Pat White or like Pat White at West Virginia. I used to watch all the West Virginia tape. We ran a spread offense in high school and back in 2009, which was pretty early, 2005 to 2009-ish, was pretty early to when that offense was just coming out. And I really studied a lot of West Virginia and Pat White, who I modeled my game after. One of my favorite players, actually.
Well, you decided to end up staying close to home, going to Rutgers for college. Was that a tough decision, easy decision? Did you consider other places, or was it always, I'm going to stay next to the house?
It checked a lot of boxes. Rutgers was really good when they were recruiting me. They were number 2 in the nation. at that time. It's when they had Ray Rice, it's when they had Kenny Britt, it's when they had the McCourty twins. I was a number one corner in New Jersey. So be able to go play an hour away from home. Greg Schiano kind of hand picks and hand recruits his corners, similar to like Nick Saban or somebody. So he personally flew his helicopter to my field. They blew up, they kind of pulled out the red carpet. And he told me while I'll be an NFL corner one day. And the plan was, the McCourtys were there and they were juniors or seniors, and I would come in, play right away or not, and then, fill them and then follow them to the NFL. And it didn't go exactly like that, but I did follow them to the NFL. I didn't play right away. I redshirted, but I kind of just knew I was considering Stanford at the time, Michigan State, or some other schools, Penn State, which is big where I'm from in South Jersey. A lot of people go to Penn State. Actually, Adam Telefero, famous defensive back for Penn State, went to my high school, and I spoke to him about wanting to kind of fulfill his legacy because he had a neck injury on the field, and he was a big deal where I'm from. And I kind of want to fulfill his legacy and go to Penn State. And he was like, nah, man, you got your own legacy. So that steered me away from Penn State. And then University of Miami offered me my senior year, but I already kind of committed to Rutgers and want to honor my scholarship there. So those are some of the other schools I considered, but Rutgers made sense. My dad graduated from Rutgers and my parents came to every game. And I knew that I wanted to go to the NFL, follow the McCourty twins on my way up.
You mentioned before that the McCourty twins. How important were they for you during your time in college while they were in the NFL, and eventually during the pre-draft process when you are in the draft now? During that process, people are saying second round, third round for you. Like, how much did they help you and give you advice and all that?
Oh man, you must have heard this story. So Jason, I never played with Jason. Jason and Devin actually weren't in the same grade. Shiano redshirted Devin and played Jason as a true freshman. So Jason did 4 years, Devin did 5. So my freshman year, Jason was his rookie year in Tennessee, and he was probably going to go undrafted. He didn't have a ton of production in college, not a lot of picks, but a good player at Rutgers. That's not going to get you drafted. But he ran like 4.3 flat at Pro Day, blazed it. So he ends up going 6th round to the Titans, ends up playing starting for them as a rookie. Devin's kind of going into his 5th year. I feel like when he saw his twins starting in the NFL, Devin took his game to another level. He went nuts his last year, and I was redshirting, kind of watching Devin. I was rooming with Devin. I kind of saw he was our captain. He was our special team captain. He had kick return touchdowns. He blocked punts. He covered number one wide receivers. He did it all. He played like 100+ snaps a game. So I kind of saw the workload and everything he did. And then like I said, it took me a year or two to find my confidence. Then I started going. And then when I decided to come out, like you said, I had a 2nd round draft grade. So it was really going to be 2nd, late 1st. I don't know. I'm leaving as a junior. So I had pretty good information that I would get drafted probably in the top 2 rounds. And I ended up running a 4.5 at the combine. And I didn't have a Senior Bowl because I left as a junior. So all my stock saw was go down. Like it never went up because I didn't have enough to make it go up. Once I didn't run really fast for their standards, then it was like, oh, he's a faller, I guess. And people started jumping me. And then the Patriots came for like a pro day, or the Patriots came to work me out privately. They coincidentally worked out like 13 Rutgers guys the same day that was the Jets' local pro day. I don't think that was a coincidence, but all the Rutgers guys worked out for the Patriots instead of going to the Jets. Probably a Belichick move there. So I called Devin and I asked him what the Patriots drills were for warmups. So Devin gave me the exact Patriots drills. And me and the guys did the DB drills. We did the warm-up drills. We did the exact drills that they do an individual every single day. We practiced that for weeks. So when the Patriots came to work us out, we pretty much were spot on. And it ended up me and Deron Harmon both got drafted in the 3rd round. Steve Baharnis, our linebacker, got drafted in the 7th round. Like 6 of us end up playing from the Patriots out of that draft class. And I think, Devin leaking me the workout might have gave us a little bit of advantage there in that one.
Does Bill ever find out about the story immediately? Like, when does he find out that, Devin out here was helping all the Rutgers guys?
I mean, he had to know. We're smart guys. We communicate well. That's why they draft us. He had to know I did my homework and I'm going to reach out and get any tips and advice and what I need to do. And so I don't know if we've ever told him, But I mean, how well I was catching all the balls one-handed in the drill. I already knew the next drill when they lined up. I'm like, "Oh, this one?" But that's my preparation, right? Like I gotta some my source told me something and we prepared for it. And I prepared for the job interview very well. So I think I rewarded him with the draft pick, and I think Deron did as well. So I think he's happy that it worked out.
100% true. And let's just go to the rookie year right away because you were outstanding as a rookie. You had 5 interceptions as a rookie. We mentioned Devin McCourty before. He had 7 as a rookie when he was in New England. Just going into the NFL, entering this Brady Belichick machine and just producing right away. Were you surprised that it was that you were that capable of doing that? Like, what was that entire rookie life like for you?
Yeah, I think at the end of the year, I had no idea I would have that much production. I was very productive in college, like I told you. And when I have my confidence, I'm very productive. But when I got drafted, the Patriots were like in the AFC Championship the year prior. And they had my corner coach told me, "Hey, get ready to play special teams because we have all 4 corners coming back." Leading with Aqib Talib, they had Kyle Arrington, the highest paid nickel at the time. They had Alfonso Denard, who was a first round talent that slid in the draft. They had Razai Dowling, they drafted a few years prior. That was a first round talent as well. So they had young corners that were first round talents. They had Aqib Talib, and he was like, "Get ready to play special teams." So I didn't play much defense at all early, but I still prepared. I still was making plays in practice. I still was a guy that, knew multiple positions. And then Aqib gets hurt. And then my first start was against the Jets back in New Jersey, where I'm from, not far from Rutgers. I get a pick six against Geno Smith in my first game. So that was a pretty good start. So I'd start the next week. I think I had a strip sack against Ryan Tannehill and the Dolphins. And so they say, "Yo, this rookie's got 2 turnovers in 2 games." So when Aqib came back, I kept starting. And I probably played the last 8 or 9 games. I had 5 interceptions, led the entire AFC, not just rookies, more than Aqib, more than anybody in the AFC. And that's just told me when I get on the field, I'm going to find a way to make good things happen. And so, yeah, I couldn't say that in the beginning of the year, but I kept working, stayed patient, I stayed confident. And when I came in, I just tried to deliver in any position that they put me in.
Hey guys, Ari here, and I'm excited to tell you that NFL Spotlight is sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. This NFL season, we're already on to week 5 of the season. How is that already week 5? But we are here to give you the edge on your bets. And if you're a new customer, you bet just $5 and you will get $300 in bonus bets if that $5 wager hits. And here on the show, we so far are 4-0 making our picks. So sign up right now. Go to fanduel.com/Ari.
Yeah, that's right. Just pick one bet, $5, put it down. If it wins, you unlock those $300 in bonus bets you can use all across the app. Build parlays, ride the live lines, bet player props, whatever your style is. FanDuel's got you covered. We're now entering week 5. Oh, I can't believe we're already at week 5, Ari. And we're getting the feel for really who are the good teams, who's not the good teams. So, we've been giving you all this information so you guys can get that $5 bet right. The only question is at this point, are you guys ready to play?
Head over to fanduel.com/Ari, A-R-I. Sign up. Get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. And if you're watching our Tuesday Spotlight guest, we pick the Thursday night game every single week. So let's do it right now.
Yeah, and normally we have this thing called a script where like we list everything out and like we talk about all this stuff. And I was supposed to say, "Hey, Ari, you're undefeated so far on all this. Don't worry. Ari already let you know because this man takes a whole lot of pride in his picks. 4-0 picking against the spread on Thursday Night Football so far. This week, we got a really good game. We don't always get good games on TNF, but this week we got a very good NFC West battle between 2, 3, and 1 teams. Los Angeles Rams, San Francisco 49ers. Right now, Rams are 4.5-point favorites at home. So, Ari, are you going to be going with them to make it 5-0, or are you going to be going with the Niners?
Yeah, so right now we are recording this on Tuesday here, and we do not fully know if Mac Jones or Brock Purdy are going to be starting this game for the 49ers. Brock Purdy has been dealing with a toe injury. He played on Sunday. Then he complained that he felt some soreness in that toe after the game. Will he play? Will he not? I'm probably leaning towards him not playing, but even if he does, I'm going to go with the Rams covering that 4.5 number because this 49ers team coming off a loss, their first of the year, they have been ravaged by injuries. I mean, if you look at it from George Kittle is on IR, Brock Purdy has missed games, and again, he might miss this game. Ricky Pearsall dealing with a knee. Jawan Jennings has been out. There's a bunch of players on this team who have been dealing with injuries, and there's a bunch of veteran players on this roster as well for a short week. And the Rams, they're just on fire right now. They are one of the better teams in the NFL. They've been clicking on all cylinders. And I think you have a good argument to make that Puka Nacua has been the best wide receiver in the NFL so far this year. So I like everything about the Rams. These games are always great. Rams, 49ers, division games, two of the best teams in that division. It should be a good game. But if the 49ers are playing a backup quarterback, which is Mac Jones, who has won 2 games, but not as great as the Rams, and even if it's Brock Purdy, who will likely be hurting, I think the Rams win this game, and I think they cover the 4.5.
Let's see if we can get to 5-0 this week, Ari. And I say us by you. I'm not actually 5-0, but I'm not going to tell you what I am because I don't have to. But you should go ahead and see if you can keep your own TNF picks alive. And if you haven't already been trailing Ari at this point, I don't know what to tell you. So go ahead. Head over to fanduel.com/Ari. Get started. Put in that $5 wager. If you hit it with us, you get your $300 in bonus bets. You pick another bet and if $5 hits, you get your $300 in bonus bets. That's all that really matters. Go in there. Sign up. Do it. America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel.
When Darrell comes in and you were comp to Darrell when you were in college, is that oh wow, Darrell is here, or is that like, dude, what the heck? Why are we bringing this guy in here?
So Darrell and I told you he was like my standard of like not growing up, but when I was in college and high school, the best defensive player corner in the world. So I watched everything of him on YouTube. His one-on-ones. I watched the Darrell Revis Jets YouTube one-on-ones. Go watch it if you're a corner. They're phenomenal. They almost look like they're unreal. He's so good. So I watched that like before bed at Rutgers. And I signed with the same agent as Darrell Revis. I trained with Darrell Revis in Arizona in the off seasons with the same DB coach. So I knew Darrell personally. So when he came to New England, I wasn't mad. I was like, I get to play with my favorite player. But they signed Brandon Browner as well. So I was like, where do I fit? Because I had a really good rookie year and thought I earned a starting spot, and they thought otherwise. So I had to fit by learning a new position in order to play with essentially my favorite player. And so that's kind of the hand I was dealt, and I could complain, ask for a trade, but I was like, you know what? Let me go figure it out.
Well, what was that 2014 season like with Darrell there? And of course, culminating with that Super Bowl win versus the Seahawks in Arizona. Just that entire game in itself, just what was it like being there on the field a little bit, on the sideline a little bit, and then just seeing the entire dramatic ending with the Malcolm Butler interception?
You know what? It was such an impactful year in my career. Obviously, I, played a key role, but I was definitely part of a really good cornerback room, starting with Darrell Revis and Brandon Browner and Kyle Arrington, myself, and Malcolm Butler's really our 5th corner, So for him to come in, our 5th corner, to come in and be essentially a Super Bowl MVP, it showed you how deep we were as a team, how you had to be team first. And I got to learn a lot from Darrell, being a teammate of his, seeing his practice habits, seeing his preparation firsthand, talking to him, not as like a young guy trying to learn his game. Now I'm his teammate. Now he needs to rely on me to get a stop on 3rd down. So I think it was a lot to learn. I think it was awesome. And he taught me how to, lead a secondary and how to be that guy with expectation and pressure on them. And he delivered time and time again. He's almost like a cheat code, man. I can't even tell you how good at football he is. But, I mean, that Super Bowl was definitely a culmination of a long year of hard work.
Let me jump over to your final season in New England. That is 2016. That is also your Super Bowl winning season. That was the 28-3 Super Bowl. And in that Super Bowl, you played 100% of the snaps. You were there the entire game. What do you remember about that game, all the downs of the first half, and ultimately all the ups of the second half and overtime eventually? The greatest Super Bowl in my mind in NFL history.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was in New England, man, I never felt like we would lose a game, like ever. There was times where we played, Peyton Manning in Denver got up on us 21, 22 points in the first half. We came back and won. So it just truly, I just never thought we could lose. And that was the closest to testing that. But I was matched up with Mohamed Sanu a lot of that Super Bowl. And Mohamed Sanu is a Rutgers guy. Mohamed Sanu was my college roommate. And I covered him every day in one-on-one. So in New England, we would get matchups every week. Like, hey, Logan, you're following this guy. We would follow one receiver all game long. And I got to match up with Mo. And me and him met at 17, 18 years old, talking about being in the NFL, talking about playing the Super Bowl one day. Now I got to match up with my best friend, my roommate, who I matched up with every day at Rutgers. Now we're playing against each other for a Super Bowl. So it was pretty surreal. I knew what Mo eats before. I know what type of gum he chews. I know what type of Gatorade he chews. So, of course, I knew his routes. So I felt super comfortable because I was covering someone I knew so well. And I had to essentially cover my best friend in order to win the Super Bowl. So that was such a surreal thing. Julio was going nuts. We limited him to his fewest targets that year with 4. But out of the 4 targets, they had 4 catches. He was unbelievable. But we executed a lot better than they did in the second half. We were able to pull it off. But I kid you not, man, I didn't think the game would go that way, but there was no way I thought we would ever lose that game.
The game after it ends, the reaction whenever you see family, friends, the celebration, like, what is the locker room like? What is all that like where you just completed the biggest comeback in NFL history in the Super Bowl?
Man, it was surreal, man, and I really felt the way things were going. It was probably my last game in New England, so I wanted to go out. I was playing again with Rutgers guys. Devin McCourty had me on my recruiting trip. Deron Harmon, I've been playing with these guys for 8 years, 7 years, so we had a really tight bond, and I kind of felt like it was the end for me. So it was such a high note, and I remember seeing Julio Jones coming out in a golf cart. And I'm like, dog, like if they would have threw you the ball, this would have been different, because he played so lights out and he was cool about it. And yeah, it was surreal. I had, this picture behind me actually is me and my daughter after that game. And it's a painting actually of throwing the confetti with my daughter. So it was just the first Super Bowl. Look, I was so happy and proud and I was a part of it. But that Super Bowl, I was one of the best defenders on our team. And I played every single snap, and I really felt a lot more ownership of that one, and I felt like I was a reason why we won it that year as a part of being a part of it, so that one definitely holds a more significant weight if I had to pick the 2, but, luckily, I don't it's like my kids, I don't have to choose which one's my favorite. I might know, I don't have to say it, but, if you had to ask me what my favorite one was, that one's my favorite.
4 years in New England, 2 Super Bowls, and like you said, you knew that would most likely be your final game in New England. Now we get to the business side. Free agency is here. I don't remember the last time the cornerback market for free agency was that deep, but it was very deep that offseason. For whatever reason, it was Stephon Gilmore, AJ Bouye, Drake Kirkpatrick, and yourself. What was the entire process like where teams are coming after you? There's money being thrown around. You're going to a different team, new head coach, new city, just the entire process of going through that for the first time in your career. What was that like?
Yeah, you know what? It was all new. It was all new, and you really don't know. Maybe nowadays they know a little bit more, but you really have no idea where you're ending up. Look, all truthfully, I wanted to stay a New England Patriot. I would have signed a $5 million a year deal to be a slot guy. That's what Kyle Arrington was making kind of at the time. I wanted to be more than him, if just because that's where the market was. If they would have signed that to me before the year, I would have took the deal. New England never made a contract offer to me to that point. So that's why I was like, hey, they never made an offer. It's been 4 years. I've been in 4 AFC championship games. I've been in 2 Super Bowls. I played a lot. I'm durable, but for whatever reason, Bill wouldn't extend a contract to me. So I was like, okay, this is probably it. I played well that year. I played well in the playoffs. I played well in the Super Bowl. So I knew I had kind of a pot at the end of the rainbow here. And, the night before free agency, my agent gets a call essentially that, hey, the Patriots have you on their board. They want to bring you back, but they want to see what you're getting out there in the market. And you're their number 1 corner on their board is what my agent told me. Now, I don't know how much of this is truth, but he said you're the number 1 corner on the board because you've been there. And they just want to see what your market is because they don't know what your market's going to be. So if you get an offer, bring it back, and then Bill will decide whether he'll match or not. I'm like, all right, cool. I get an offer, bring it back, stay a Patriot. I don't know. Less than a day later, they signed Stephon Gilmore to be their number one corner and give him a lot more money than they were ever going to give me. So I was like, that wasn't too truthful, but Gilmore's a beast. Happy for him. I probably knew I wasn't staying in New England anyway. It felt like Bill told my agent a lie, but I don't know. It is what it is. So my market ends up shaping up. It's the Tennessee Titans, Chicago Bears, and New Orleans Saints. They're all giving me kind of the same money. One raises the bid, the next one matches. We go to the third team, they match. We go. They're all trying to give me a 4-year deal. And I wanted a 3-year deal because I was 25, 26. I wanted to get to free agency before I was 30. And back then, a lot of guys weren't taking 3-year deals. Most of those guys were taking 5-year deals. I wanted a 3-year deal to prove myself and get a new deal before 30. I believe it's about getting many contracts before 30. Long story short, I ended up signing with the Titans. I spoke to Jason McCourty, another long-lost McCourty twin, and I said, hey, where would I live? What's the town? Franklin, Tennessee, Brentwood. Okay, what's the school district for my daughter? What's it like? What's the team like? What's Mariota like? And I kind of did my digging like I did before the pro day with Devin. He said, man, you'll like it. We're on the up and up. We got this young guy, Derrick Henry's going to be good. This guy, Mariota, is going to be good. So I was like, okay. So it was sold to me that I was going to get money in a tax-free state and I was going to play with Jason McCourty after I just played with Devin McCourty. So I signed a deal to be a Tennessee Titan for all of those reasons: school, taxes, good team, up and coming. They want to bring Super Bowl champions in to learn how to do it. The day that I signed, the first day was to report whatever a few months later, a month later for spring OTAs. They cut Jason McCourty. They give me his locker. I got the guy's locker. They asked me if I want to wear his jersey number. I said, heck no, I got my own jersey number. And again, that felt like a lie, but they used Jason McCourty to recruit me to Tennessee, and they ended up cutting my guy the day I got there.
Is that when you realized football is a business? Like you mentioned the 3-year thing, which is genius. And I think more players are finally doing it. More agents are doing it finally. But like, when did you fully realize this league is a business and like, you really can't trust anybody?
Yeah. I think with the Bill situation, with never giving me a contract offer, and then actually when I did sign to Tennessee, so I signed for 3 years, $30 million. So I told you I would have signed for 5 prior. That's literally all I thought of myself. I would have signed 3 for 15. New England never did it. I have 3 teams giving me $10 million a year. I go with Tennessee because it's tax-free and I know Jason McCourty and I believe it's a good place to raise my kids. So I signed with Tennessee. When I go to sign with Tennessee, New England calls and goes, hold up. We want you back. And I'm like, what do you mean? You have Stephon Gilmore and Malcolm Butler. Where do I fit? You can't pay us all. And they said, we're going to move Malcolm and we want to bring you back with Gilmore. So I'm like, what? So I call Malcolm Butler. I'm like, yo, Malcolm, I don't know what's going on over there, but they told me that they want to move you. And this is the start before the Malcolm Butler season when he doesn't play in the Super Bowl. And I honestly don't know the reason, so don't ask me. But it started early. So when I'm about to go sign this $30 million, $10 million a year deal, New England sends a petty, hey, we'll give you $14 million for 3 years. And I said, come on, man. Nobody in America is signing for half the salary when 3 other teams want to give me double. If you make it close, I'll consider. They said, no, we can't give you more than 15. And I said, well, I'm getting 30. And I felt like they did that just so that the PR can be that I chose more money to go elsewhere. And that's not the truth. I gave them every opportunity to come in the ballpark or just come first. They never came first. They came last and they offered me half. So I go to Tennessee. The fans are telling me, you'll never win again. You're greedy. You chose the money. And that's not it. That's not how the business was handled. So I want to straighten that up. And then when I got to $10 million a year, I told you everything was a 4-year deal. I just wanted 30 in the first 3 years. I wanted 30 in the first 3 years. And then the 4th year would be 6 or 4. And it'd be a 4 for 34, or 4 for 36, or 4 for 38. And then I felt like I would be underpaid that last year. So I told my agent, if we won 30 in the first 3, why don't we just do a 3 for 30? Why do I care about the 4th year? He said, "You're willing to risk that?" I said, "Yeah, I don't need the 4th year. I'll just play well for 2, 3 years and get to the market again." And that's why we decided to cut the 4th year and go with the 3 for 30.
Genius. I mean, more players are finally doing the 3-year structure instead of doing the fake small number in the back end or a big number in the back end that's
Yeah.
not guaranteed. It
This
makes no
report
sense.
card, it sounds better when you report it,
Sounds
but
better
the
for the
money in the back
agent.
end's not really guaranteed. It's fluff. You get hurt, you underpay, you're not playing well, and they release you. You play well, and they don't get you out of the contract. So I wanted a shorter contract to bet on myself.
Those back end contracts are all team options that players don't realize until it gets to that point, and eventually they have all the control. So you realize that early on, and all the Patriot stuff happened there. Would you say just the relationship with New England kind of got complicated from there? Like, did you have more conversations with Bill from there, or was just that?
Look, I wanted to beat them bad when I played them for sure. I felt like I wanted to be there, and I felt like they didn't give me the opportunity. But I agreed, Stephon Gilmore worked out. He's a heck of a player, but I felt like I was a heck of a player in my own right. Like, we're different players. So, I wasn't mad when I went back and beat him a couple years in a row. That's for sure. But no, like, I separate Bill, the coach. He's one of my favorite coaches I ever had, one of the best coach I ever had, from Bill, the GM. They're two different roles, two different things. I couldn't get in my feelings too much about it. I felt like I was worth it, and I felt like I proved that to Tennessee. And they wanted to go a different direction, and I was cool with that. I thought they could have been more truthful about it. I don't think they needed to tell me I was number one on their board when I wasn't. Like, I didn't understand that. I don't understand that business logic. But if they want to go with a different guy, like Stephon Gilmore, shoot, that got them a Super Bowl. I'm happy for them. But still, all my best friends, all of my college friends were on that team, So I still had a lot of friends on that team. And we kind of knew what it was there, that New England doesn't always pay everybody, and it kind of gets messy at the end of your contract. You just got to be prepared. And I was prepared. I was in a good place, and I was happy to turn a chapter when I went to Tennessee.
Well, during your time in Tennessee, they become one of the better teams in the AFC. Mike Vrabel is the head coach. You become a leader on and off the field for that team. And one of the things that I noticed during your time there in Tennessee is that the team had a knack of just beating teams that the media and the outside said that they can. And I remember like the week 1 game versus the Browns and Baker and Odell, his first game. Was that in Tennessee with Mike just always, we're gonna have bulletin board material and we're gonna win no matter what? Like, what was the behind the scenes of always winning games people said you shouldn't?
Well, we were the underdog, and we all embraced that. And we were not the national big market team that's been to all the AFC championships. And I was on the top team in the league. I was on the dynasty. I was on the Bulls. I was on the Bulls. I played with Michael Jordan and Tom Brady. I played with Rodman, with Gronk. Like, I was part of that. And that was like every single game, we're not losing ever at all. And I was on a different team. And I thought no one worked like New England. Then when I went to Tennessee, I'm like, you guys work hard. We just got to pull these games off. When Vrabel got there, he was preaching the same thing. And look, we were loaded in the secondary in Tennessee. We had me, who was pretty much, they paid me to kind of play on the outside and inside. We drafted Adoree Jackson in the first round, super talented kid, who actually they drafted him to play on the inside. And we signed Malcolm Butler, my old running mate in New England. That's no fluke. He came to Tennessee. We made sure we played together again. So we were good. Me and Malcolm were paid. And then Adoree, as a young player, the slot's really hard to play when you're young. So they put Adoree on the outside, and they put me back to the slot. And they said, well, I'd be okay with it. I said, no problem. And in my opinion, we had our three-headed monster. All of us covered number one receivers before. All of us were comfortable with our matchups. We started matching up with guys like the Browns. Okay, so-and-so, Malcolm will get Odell. He's covered him before. I'll get Jarvis Landry. I covered him before, and Adoree will cover the other guy. And we had Kevin Byard, who was coming as one of the best safeties in football, and Kenny Vaccaro, one of the hardest hitters in football. So we had a really loaded secondary. We had a really fun team, and we were hyenas, man. We were the hyenas. Like, I was used to being the lion in the jungle. Well, then we ended up turning to be the hyenas, out there and going for scraps. And we kind of embraced that. We knocked off a lot of top teams, but it also helps when you got a young Derrick Henry toting the rock on the other side. And kind of, we won it a different way than how I was winning in New England. We won ugly, but we won with great defense and running the ball. And it was fun to kind of physically dominate people like that.
I do want to ask you about that January 2020 game, Brady's last game as the Patriots, ultimately his last throw. ends up in your hands with a pick six. Just what do you remember about that game, being back at Foxborough, getting the interception, hearing the crowd go silent, and where is that ball? Like, where is that right now?
Yeah, so, I will say this. So, obviously, I was back in New England on the other side, and I'm like, Brady does not lose home playoff games. Like, you can count on one hand in 20 years how many home playoff games. So it's a very tough feat. And I'm a matchup guy, so I was matched up with Julian Edelman, who I matched up with in practice. And he's one of the biggest trash talkers. He's and he knows this. He's my nemesis in the NFL. Love to play with them. You hate to play against them because of everything that makes Julian Edelman, out of respect. And I matched up with him every day. He told me I couldn't guard him in practice daily. We used to get in fights at practice, and he's chippy like that. So I was the leader of our defense. He's obviously the leader of his offense, and it's all going to go down the slot. So I was so prepared to match up with Julian, and that chemistry with him as Tom, and that energy and that connection I knew would take it all. And we're able to, keep it close. And then Tom has the ball, with a minute left, down a score. We've seen this movie a million times out of a million. I've been in the Super Bowls where Tom has done this a million times. So I'm like, here we go. And we put in this defense to put me in the middle. And it's kind of a Hail Mary type last couple play defense. And instead of me being deep or instead of me being a man-to-man, they put me in the middle to spy Tom. And I just read Tom's eyes, and he attempted to throw the ball to Mohamed Sanu. Ding, ding, ding. My college roommate again. And it got tipped up. And I was right there, man, right on the spot. And if you ever watch the replay, with Tom's last pass to the Patriot, I pick it off, I go score it. Mike Vrabel is livid. He's yelling, "Get down," because if we get down, we can take a knee and the game is over. The fact that I scored, we went up by 8, and technically the game's not over. And he is so mad at me for not sliding. I mean, I don't even think he was happy. The whole sideline celebrated, but Mike Vrabel's situational football was not happy with me. And I said, Braves, 100 times out of 100 on pick six and Brady if I can. And I take that to my grave. So that ends up, in my opinion, I felt like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. I felt like I blew up the Death Star. I came up, blew up the Death Star. I had word that Brady was probably going to be leaving after that. And it ended up being his last game. And the New England dynasty kind of was at its end, and it needed to end. And I was happy that I got to be the one to do it. Not that I had any ill will. It's just how it turned out that way. And I was part of that dynasty, but we needed to end around the NFL. And I felt like I had a part in that.
Now, that ball, correct me if I'm wrong, is that with you? Was that auctioned off for a good cause? Like, what happened to that?
Yeah, that ball. So I spoke to Tom about it. I got him to sign it again when we were Tampa teammates. I tricked him, and around Christmas, I have him sign some things for me, and I snuck that ball in there. So I got him to sign. I don't know. People are getting quarterbacks to sign their interception balls. I was on that wave early, so I got Tom to sign it. And let's just say we were able to get that into a Patriot fan's hands for the right cost, and went for a good cause. So Tom was okay with it. I was okay with that. I no longer have that ball, but somebody does for the right price, and it's a part of Patriots lore that I'm sure the price is still going up on that.
After that season comes to an end, you had a terrific year. That was the final year of your contract in Tennessee. You started every game. You had 4 interceptions in the regular season. You had that postseason interception. You had 18 pass breakups, 4 forced fumbles, 4.5 sacks, over 110 tackles. You were all over the place. You become a free agent once again, and this is the one that blows my mind because you go unsigned for 6 months, and I know there was talks with a bunch of different teams, but you know your worth. You also switch agents. You start digging into research, slot corners, going to safety. Just talk about that entire 6, 7, 8 months of your life trying to figure out where your next football will be played.
Oh man, I lost a lot of sleep. This is where I lost a lot of sleep over this one. This free agency lasted 6 months, like you said. The first one lasted 2 days, and it was different. So in my opinion, I signed a 3-year deal in Tennessee, and I knew I would play well, and I knew that I would probably sign another deal and retire a Titan, just based on the the belief I had in myself, the same feeling I had for New England. I wanted to remain a Titan. And my second year, I was playing well. And against the Giants, I broke my leg to the end of the year. And I felt like I was going to start a contract extension talk with Tennessee to kind of get another, maybe one last bite at the apple, retire in my 30s. There was even talks of me potentially going to the Titans front office at the end of my career because how much they valued what I was bringing to that organization. Obviously, the success we were starting to have. And for whatever reason, when I broke my leg, they didn't want to do a contract extension. It kind of got tabled. And I went into Mamba mentality mode, and I started waking up at 4 a.m. I started going nuts with my training, with my regiment, and I took it up a level. And I had my career best year that last year there. And I was one of the first DBs since Rod Woodson to have 120 tackles, 4+ interceptions, 4+ forced fumbles, 4+ sacks. Plus, I had 18 PBUs, which were top 2 in the league. So I felt like I was producing at every single level you can produce. And, you know, John Robinson pretty much said, hey, we have to pay Tannehill because Tannehill had a good year. We have to pay the quarterback. We have to pay Derrick Henry. And we just don't know if we can afford you in your market. And I said, why don't you make an offer and see if I can make that work? I want to stay here. And it was kind of similar, like, we don't want to make an offer. We don't know what your market will be. So, and I said, well, I would need a raise, you know, because I'm playing at a very like high level, and I kind of got snubbed from All Pro and Pro Bowl, but I'm playing at that level. And, you know, he said, well, you're the highest paid nickel corner in the league, and you're going to be 29, and you're making 10 mil to play a nickel. And I said, no, I start every snap. I play perimeter corner and 2 receiver sets. I moved to the nickel because of Dory and Malcolm. We talked about why I moved to the nickel, and I'm leading all our secondary in PBUs. I'm leading our secondary interceptions. I'm leading our secondary in sacks. I feel like I'm one of the highest paid players, should be the highest paid player on defense, one of. And he said, that's not how it works. You're the highest paid nickel. Then I said, quote, I have more interceptions and just as many sacks as Budda Baker. I have more interceptions, just as many sacks as Jamal Adams. So if I was a safety, these guys are making close to $20 million. Would I be underpaid? He said, but you're not a safety. So I said, ding, ding, ding. That's what I need to do. I got to change my position. So long story short, I go to free agency. I thought something with the Miami Dolphins was supposed to get done. I think my agent really botched that situation and kind of waited too long, and they moved on. COVID hits. So when COVID hits, everybody, if you didn't get signed in the first day or two, nobody knew if we had a season. Nobody knew what the salary cap would be. No one knew if we were going to play games. So everything kind of got halted out. So my market just disappeared. After the Dolphins, it just kind of was not, it was gone because COVID hit and no one really knew how to handle it. I called John Robinson personally, and I said, hey, man, I want to come back. Just give me a 1-year deal. I understand you might have spent some money. Just give me a 1-year deal back of what I made last year, and I'll come prove to you why I want to retire a Titan. He said, Logan, we can't do it. It doesn't work like that. We'll give you $6 or $5 million. I said, I just made 10, John. I just gave you a career year. We went to the AFC Championship. First time since 2000 or whatever. And you want me to walk in as a captain to take half the salary after I just put my heart and soul, after a broken leg and everything I had to prove? And he just said, that's just how free agency works. It's about time. So I said, absolutely not. I won't do it. So I told every team in the league, I just want a 1-year deal, $10 million. That's what I made the last 3 years. The cornerback market has went up. Guys are making, I think, the guy out of Dallas that went to Miami, Byron Jones just signed for $17 million. Okay? No shade on Byron Jones. I think I'm a better corner than Byron Jones. So he signed for 17. Now me getting 10, it's not even looking good. So I held out. I waited till it was time to get my close to 10 million. The Vikings trying to sign me on a long-term deal for $6 million a year. Carolina tried to bring me on a 2-year, $18 million deal. I said, just get it 2 years, 20, I'll go. I want 10 a year. They said they couldn't do it. And long story short, I switched agents to Joe Siegel. He said, yo, you got to stop waiting around. You got to go play. So I'm going to get you the best deal you can get, period. It's not going to be 10. No one's giving you 10 right now for a 1-year deal. This is what you have to do. I'm sorry. This is what you have to do. So I said, okay. Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins came back in, and Joe Judge and the New York Giants came back in. And, Joe was like, hey, man, I want you in, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, you got to list me as a safety. I said, I'll play nickel. I don't care. But I got to be labeled as a safety because apparently they don't want to pay nickels. I think it's dumb, but list me at free safety, list me at strong safety. I really don't care. I'll play corner. I'll go play in the slot like I have been for the last few years. But you got to list me as a safety. And I wanted 10. Joe and them gave me 5 with incentives to get to 7.5. We met in the middle. I hit all my incentives and I signed a new contract, I don't know, 12, 13 weeks into the season for a 3-year, $31 million deal, beating 10, which is a number I cared about. 12 weeks in, I earned that contract extension. They didn't have it at the start of the year. But that is why I changed my position. That is why I went to safety, because I felt like they didn't pay slot corners. And that's kind of a lot of the details on why some of that stuff happened.
Last couple of things here before I just wrap it all up. We've kind of gone a little bit overtime here, but after you finished up with the Giants, did you decide, hey, I'm going to go through this entire bounce around a little bit, or you didn't want to deal with that? You wanted one more shoe? What was the mindset after the Giants' tenure was over?
Well, let's go to the Giants real quick. Why not? We're in it. So I signed the extension with the Giants. Again, I'm from New Jersey. I intended to end my career there. I played a year. I signed a 3-year extension and to be there. And then obviously Joe Shane comes in. Joe Judge gets fired. Previous regime gets fired. New GM, new head coach. You already know what happens. So they started pressuring everyone into taking pay cuts. They started pressuring everybody to, cut. I remember Joe Shane saying he wants to save like $60 million in the salary cap. Told the whole NFL that. And I thought that was foolish because now any player you want to trade, people know you're trying to get rid of players. He squeezed Blake Martinez into a pay cut. He squeezed Shepard into a pay cut. He shopped all us top stars. He shopped James Bradbury forever. And I said, hey, man, I just signed this extension. Am I part of this future or not? Where am I at? And they said, well, we don't know yet. I said, I don't know our issues, but I know I'm not the issue on this team. I know that our defense was not the problem, and, it is what it is. So long story short, I end up getting released, getting signed by the Bucs where I had a house, and the Giants paid my salary to play with the Bucs. So I don't know why they wanted to do that, but they did that. But they had Julian Love and Xavier McKinney. And our safety room was me, Jabril Peppers, Julian Love, and Xavier McKinney. And I was proud of that safety room because all of us end up getting paid. All of us end up being captains. All of us end up being really good, productive players for our organizations. None of us play there anymore. So if you don't want to pay me and the young pups are going to be ballers, because I knew they were going to be ballers, then you better keep Jay Love and Xavier McKinney. I have no idea why they let them walk on top of Saquon, on top of a lot of other things we can get into. That's a whole other podcast about that situation. But that one didn't make any sense to me. I ended up going to Tampa, playing out the rest of my New York deal. And I felt like this was it. I felt like this was where I was going to be done. I made good money. I've been to a lot of big games. I played a lot of playoff games. I've been to a lot of championship games, and I've been a leader for quite a while. I go to Tampa. I go with Brady. I come down there. Literally, my agent was like, pick any team in the NFL because the Bucs or the Giants are paying your full salary. I looked at my wife. She said, let's go to Tampa. We have a house there. So we went to Tampa, and I ended up breaking my foot that year. And I came back on a broken foot. Now, mind you, I haven't missed any games in my entire career at this point. I ended up missing like 6-7 weeks with a broken foot. Far not enough. I came back really quick. The year was up and down, was not a good year. It was Brady's last year. And I was done, man. I was like, look, this is not how I want to go out, but I came back off the broken foot. We get bounced in the first round to the Cowboys. But I did what I had to do. I felt like I did the best I could business-wise. I felt like I was the best player, the best teammate I can be. And it was time to stop moving my daughter around and to stay put. And that was it. And then I pretty much retired. And then I was on a Disney cruise on Thanksgiving, and Hufanga got hurt. A bunch of teams have called me that year to play. And I was like, I'm not going to those teams. They're not any content. I'm good. I'm retired. I'm fine. And the 49ers opportunity it intrigued me. They had a really good team. I really liked the mannerisms. I loved playing against Kyle Shanahan. I knew what Christian McCaffrey was like. I knew what Bosa was like. I really liked Fred Warner and Hufanga tore his ACL. And they gave me a call as I'm boarding a Disney cruise. John Lynch does. He's like, hey, Logan, I don't know what shape you're in, but Kyle Shanahan loves you. And we spoke to Brady, and he says you stay in shape. And how would you want to be a 49er? I'm like, look, bro, I'm not going to lie, John. I'm on this cruise. I can't get off. My wife's going to kill me. I'm like, you got to give me like a week, bro. I got to work this over. I just retired. I told her I'm not playing. And I came off that Disney cruise and joined the 49ers and ended up starting in my third Super Bowl. And that was a pretty fun experience with those guys. I love being a 49er.
Well, let me finish it off of that. Being on the 49ers and playing 80% of the snaps in the Super Bowl, but being on the losing side of a Super Bowl, just what was that like? How difficult was it? Seeing the game go to overtime, the overtime rules, which apparently some people didn't know, just that entire game, what was that like?
Well, I was fortunate to be in 3 of probably the greatest Super Bowls, right? The Seattle Malcolm Butler one was a thriller. The 28-3 you said was the best Super Bowl of all time. And then obviously the second overtime Super Bowl. I've been in 2 overtime Super Bowls. So that was a thriller based on what team you're rooting for. And, I can't win them all. I was like, you're not going to win all these thrillers. I felt really, my heart was for San Francisco, man. They really won a championship there. It's great fans, a great organization. I really believe in Kyle Shanahan. I really like Brock Purdy. Those guys work really hard. They're really hungry. And I was in that room with 2 Super Bowl rings. No one else in that room really had them. Shanahan lost a couple. They lost a couple, a couple years prior. So they had Super Bowl heartbreak already. So I really believed we would win it. And obviously we had some crazy stuff go down when Dre Greenlaw get hurt. That was kind of tragic. I'd never seen that happen in a Super Bowl like that. He was a big piece of what we were doing. And it just didn't go our way down the stretch, man. Mahomes and then pulled it off. And it was devastating, man. I've never lost Super Bowl, but you don't have the picture with your daughter afterwards. I don't know what to do in the locker room when you're not popping champagne. Like you see the one locker room that we all see, but we don't see the other one. And it is quiet. There's nothing really to say. I mean, that's the end of the year. It's the last time I'm probably playing with these guys. San Francisco did ask me to come back a year. I said, guys, I'm good. I'm at the point where I'm okay. No offense to them. It's just, I knew that was my last stint of leaving a cruise and I can't keep pulling this off. I didn't want to move away from my family in California for the year. I didn't want to move my kids' schools again. So that was my final game. My kids were crying and I had to be there because my son, my daughter was in my wife's belly for one Super Bowl and was at the other one. My son wanted to play with confetti. Unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to do that, so he was upset. And I told him, hey, man, you don't always win them all. And I really was talking to myself. And I think just being a father in that moment made me have to move on from it. But that's my last game of my career. So that one definitely haunts me a little bit. But, man, you're not going to win every one of them. Then you're not going to win every thriller. That would have been quite a Super Bowl resume if I could have pulled all 3 of those off.
Unbelievable playing career. We went through almost most of it here on the show, and we've gone almost an hour. It's supposed to be 45 minutes max, so I apologize for that. But I would be remiss not asking you 2 quick things here at the end. Number one, just going into broadcasting, when did you think about that? When did that come into your thought process about doing that and wanting to be in our world?
I didn't think about it a lot. I had radio shows when I played. I hosted one in Tennessee. I hosted one in New York. So I was always comfortable. I was always a captain and vocal. So I was comfortable talking in front of people. And, I went to a broadcast boot camp. It's something the NFL gives you as a benefit. I went and you learn how to do some stuff and they teach you how to call a game. None of us ever called a game before. And I auditioned and I did well enough where like every network wanted me. I'm like, oh shoot, I must be doing something right. And I fell in love with it, man. I signed with CBS. I'm in my second year calling games here, called NFL games, moving up rather quickly. But I really prepare, like in this interview, I prepare for these opportunities really hard. I prep really hard and calling the game is just how I would as a player. I see trends and tendencies and I call it out how I see it. I know all these guys in the league, so I have interesting stories and outlook. And I guess it makes for a good listen. So I'm gonna continue to do it. And I really strive to be one of the best to do it.
Love it. Very articulate, great storyteller. Not surprised you're doing so well and moving up in that world. Last thing here, Logan, and again, I really appreciate all the time. This is the NFL Spotlight Show. We love spotlighting people You could pick anybody, player, coach, executive. Who is somebody that we should target to get on the show here in the future?
Oh, you need to get this guy. I mentioned him earlier. He saved my career. Jeff Hafley. Brilliant mind, great guy. He will be an NFL head coach next year. You see what he's doing with this Packer defense. You see what he did last year with the Packer defense. Now with Micah Parsons, I think Jeff Hafley is going to be the hottest coach in the NFL this offseason. He really gets the best. He coached Darrell Revis in college. He coached me. And not that I'm Darrell Revis or anything like that, but I was really struggling to figure out what I was good at. And he found that fire in me, and really a big credit to my playing style and how I was able to be productive and versatile was what Hafley told me was to use my superpower, which is my IQ, and use my instincts. Trust your instincts. And when you have a boss that believes in you and wants you to be you, I really think that made a difference. So I would love for Jeff Hafley to get all the spotlight he deserves.
Work on it. He went from being a college head coach to leaving that job to become the Packers defensive coordinator, and he's been outstanding so far. Got one head coach interview last offseason with the Jets, didn't get the job, obviously, but like you said, I think he'll be a head coach in this league in no time. Logan, I really want to thank you for coming on over here and talking about your entire career from where it started, the entire NFL journey, the ups, the downs, the business side of it, and everything in between. And now, of course, your broadcasting career, which you are very, very good at, and you're going to be very, very successful at. So, thank you so much for coming on, and you're welcome anytime back, man.
I appreciate. Hopefully the broadcast contracts will be a lot less, a lot simpler. We'll see. But man, I appreciate it, man. I got to tell you some stuff I've never really told before. So hopefully hopefully you guys enjoy this one.
Hey guys, Ari here to tell you that we are just so excited to be working with our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they have created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. All you got to do while you're driving, they gather and they analyze data from your smartphone sensors. After a few weeks, you will get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving.
Yeah, and you can even test it out before you switch, which helps you get the perfect way of knowing what you're going to be paying based on your driving, which honestly, it's always useful. It's always good for us to have a little bit of feedback as to what we're doing when we are on the road, because it's important to stay safe. And you know what? This app, though, it's more than just being able to get you that data. It's also a very easy way for you to edit your coverage, update your policy, even just file a claim in a few minutes.
So get started today by visiting root.com, root.com, and learn how you could save for good driving.
And much like driving, Ari, sometimes you got to play it a little bit safe, which is what I hope the Ravens are doing right now with Derrick Henry, as his lightened workload has me a little bit nervous with only 31 rush attempts over his last 3 games after 18 in week 1 and being obviously a total bell cow for the team last year. Is the driving force in that decision to keep more tread on the tires for later in the season, or is there something else going on?
I mean, listen, they're 1-3 on the year, so saving him for later in the season, you better get to late in the season and still be in it at this rate. And of course, they've had a tough schedule, and he's had a couple of key brutal fumbles at portions of the game where it should not be happening. So maybe that is part of it. Maybe they're thinking about that. And yes, the Ravens have been very calculated in their usage of Derrick Henry. They also did it at times last year early in the season. But when I look at Derrick Henry, we know how amazing he is and how great he is. And yes, is he up there in age? Is he defining all science? He probably is. But at the same time, there are moments in the game where I feel like he needs to be in the game. There are 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, where I'm not saying you have to give him the ball, but him just being in the backfield at least gives defenses the thought that the ball could go to Derrick Henry. It could open up everything else. And for whatever reason, he has not been on the field in some of those situations that happened twice in that game versus the Chiefs on Sunday. So even if that's what they're thinking about keeping him for later in the year, I don't like the fact that there are certain situations where he is not out there, whether it is to give him the ball or not give him the ball. That's been an issue to me. And maybe they're hiding something. Maybe they're frustrated with the fumbles, whatever it is. This offense runs the best when Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson are on the field together. And for whatever reason, we have not seen it to this point. So John Harbaugh, he's going to speak throughout the course of the week. We'll see if he says anything, but I would be stunned if we don't see more Derrick Henry here in week 5. They need to get a win over here and get to 2-3 on the year.
Just move their way back to 500. He should be more than just an insurance policy. And while insurance is important, not sure that we need to be completely saving Derrick Henry at this stage. So if you do want good insurance, though, head over to root.com and learn how you can save money by having good driving skills.
Special thanks to Logan Ryan for joining us here on the show this week. I mean, wow, what a conversation that was. And like I told Logan in the interview at one point, like, we're like 45, 50 minutes in. We could go another 45 minutes, an hour more if we have to. I mean, just so much detail, so much great stories, talking about his career, all the people he has been around, the stuff that he has gone through. And I really don't think the fans truly get to see the behind the scenes of how the sausage is really made in the business world of the NFL, the free agency side, the negotiation side, how tense and complicated it could really get between teams, whether it is in free agency, whether it is in a contract extension. Sometimes the agents leave the player completely out of it. Sometimes the player is involved, which Logan Ryan was involved. And throughout all of it, all of his negotiations, they got really ugly. They got really complicated. They made his life very difficult, even though he was an exceptional player and deserved probably more money than he actually got in those contracts. But the way these things work in the NFL, the markets work, the way all these teams have all their different data scientists and different people, cap guys, analytic guys, they are very, very down to the point about how they want to do things, and it can make life complicated for some players. So Logan had a tremendous career on the field, did a lot of things off the field, won 2 Super Bowls, like we said. But for him to open up about the business world and what he had to deal with when he came to that side of the NFL, really appreciate him doing that. And I think most of those stories that he said, that was the first time he ever went on the record with it. So really, really appreciative of him doing it here on NFL Spotlight. If you have anybody who you think should be on NFL Spotlight in the future, player, coach, executive, you heard Logan Ryan say we should get the Packers defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley. Who do you think we should get on? We ask our viewers, we ask our listeners. Let us know in the comments. Let me know in my direct messages on X. We'll take a look. If it makes sense, we'll go out there and try to get that person on the show. But that will do it here for our Tuesday, September 30 edition of NFL Spotlight. We will see you here later in the week as we talk more about things happening around the NFL. We'll see you then.